Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back as Spurs are well and truly back after another Premier League home defeat in which we have two sendings off. And at the time of recording, we could be losing one of the first team coaches in Matty Wells, who looks likely more than ever now to be on the move to the MLS after not being part of not being in attendance for Spurs' Premier League game against Liverpool. And also news filtering through to us that Tottenham Hotspur's sporting director, Fabio Paratici, is set to depart the football club at the time of recording. Never a dull moment in the life of Tottenham. If you're watching for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify. We are across all major audio platforms. As you can already tell, we've not even touched on the game yet. A lot to touch upon during this game. So we can ask you out there, guys, first. If you can like the show, hit the subscribe button, hype the show. That would be greatly appreciated. We're joined by three great returning guests. Some more regular than others, or we're trying to make one more regular than others. But at the moment, I think this man's face, we've not had him back on for a while. It's a lot to take in being a Spurs fan right now. And if we just start, like I say, bringing the guys in, I've got Luke back from Spotlight on Spurs, Miles is back from Spurs Kings, and Mitch Fretton is back on the show. Show them some love if you can, guys. Like and subscribe to their respective platforms as well. Tottenham 1, Liverpool 2. Look, we'll try and be honest about it. You know, there was character shown in large periods of the game, and fair play. With 9 men, we gave that game a proper go. The Simons red card was certainly a debatable one. Cristian Romero's quite simply rash and unnecessary, but it is another defeat at home, our last one of the calendar year. And now for Tottenham, that does mean, and it's an utterly disgraceful record, you have to say, that Tottenham have now lost 11 home league games in 2025, their most ever in a single calendar year across the club's history. And we have to be clear, that doesn't just fall on Thomas Frank. That, of course, is also part of Ange Postecoglou's tenure at the football club. And again, a lot of questions will be around managers, players, the direction, the strategy of the football club. So it's fair to say we've got a lot to cover. We're going to hear, of course, from Thomas Frank during the show. We're going to touch upon, again, 2 potentially imminent departures in Matt Wells and, of course, in Fabio Paratici. But Luke, we're going to start with you. Luke, strange match. Spurs, good for large periods. To be fair, they battled brilliantly, I thought, certainly at the end, and gave it a real go. But let down by the rashness, you've got to say, Cristian Romero and Xavi Simons. You know, for as many will debate the decision, for me, it was an unintentional tackle, but he still gives the referee a decision to make. Luke, give us your thoughts on the game against Liverpool and the performance overall, and what you make of it.
Yeah, it was a real tough one to sort of analyse because, as you said, there was some key stuff in there that we've been asking to see from the team for quite a while in terms of being able to battle, being able to fight back, being able to work hard, which actually should just be standards anyway. But we see that, but then we also see just really, really poor moments from individuals. So a real weird game to kind of assess. Liverpool again weren't very good. And it's again another game where a team hasn't had to be brilliant to beat us, which I think is becoming a problem. I said it a couple of weeks back. Teams don't have to be brilliant to beat us. They don't have to have a moment of genius. They don't even necessarily have to work hard, and they can still beat us, which is not a good trait to have as a Premier League team. However, we were coming into it, and one thing for sure is a big shout out to the fans. I thought the fans were brilliant today. I even think Ekitike came out in a press conference after and actually spoke and said how good the fans were. So that's brilliant because we've been getting some pelters for absolutely no reason recently. So I think that's a positive. But yeah, there were some positives. I will say that soon as the red card was kind of registered and confirmed, I think everyone kind of knew what was going to happen here. And I think at least we didn't go down with a whimper, which is, I think, a positive thing. But yeah, just really, really strange. But it kind of typifies Spurs, right? Just so many weird, strange, ridiculous moments that happen far too frequently. And sometimes you make your own luck. I mean, we have a deflection from Mawani, hits the bar 10 was it 2 minutes later, they have a deflection, it pops up, drops straight in their striker's head, and he heads it in the net, and that's the difference. Like, so a real weird one to assess. There were some positives in there, but I'm getting bored of having to find positives in games now. There need to be obvious positives right there in front of us, and hopefully picking up more points than what we're doing at this moment in time, because it's been a bad run.
Yeah, it has been. Marlon, I'm going to come over to you. Welcome back to the show. Oh, look, it was, we described that term, being maybe a horrendous day for Xavi, but also for Romero, the rashness he showed in being sent off. There will be, I'm sure, a lot of questions right now in the manner of how he's allowed himself to get embroiled after being yellow carded as well, and where Spurs have an opportunity so late in the game to nick a point. But the behaviour of Romero to be sent off in the nature he does kills any sense of momentum that Tottenham might have had to go and get a point. And look, the fans, like Luke touched upon there, were superb. They were amazing. They really stayed with the players right until the end. But look, despite the fight somehow being there, Marlon, it's still another home defeat. It's still another Premier League defeat. Before I come on to the stats and the table, Marlon, thoughts on the overall game for yourself?
Cristian Romero probably summed up the whole of that game. We're back here. Look, the first half was boring as hell. If we're all being honest, both teams weren't at it. It was a walking pace. If I had to pay to go to watch that today, and this is where I'm going to say fair play to both sets of fans, because both teams in that first half were absolutely terrible. It was a terrible game to watch. I was falling asleep, and it was probably both down to tactics and how the way both teams wanted to play. But then Romero. Okay, so we get the sending off. We're doing okay. We're actually doing okay. We're not doing great, but we're doing okay. We're controlling Liverpool in the fact of they're not coming onto us. And then he tries to play the most ridiculous pass in the world, and it kills everything for us. I don't know what he's doing, what he's thinking, and then that just summed up his game really. And that's why I'm going to be pointing a lot of fingers at Romero. Yes, Frank can get it too for his tactics, because I thought the starting lineup was awful again. But I've been told in the past, whenever I moan about the starting lineup and they win, it's fine. But it actually was wrong until the sending off. I thought his substitutions were too late in the situation. Well, he weren't reacting quick enough. So there's another big problem. But look, Liverpool, for me, without Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, from like when I look at it last year, we could have got at them today. If we had played as we did against Brentford, we could have actually done something today. And I don't know what. The boys just didn't seem up for it again. And then as soon as the sending off happened, they realised their backs up were against the wall. But it seemed to be when we went down to 9 men, when they actually thought, there's some fight. And I thought to be fair to Richarlison, he gets a lot of hassle. He gets a lot. But I thought he put up the most fight, which meant the team started to react. And it looked like we had more players on the pitch than Liverpool. But that is how bad I thought both teams really were. And at this present moment, yes, it's another home defeat, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked of these players now, especially our club captain. And I think that is where the biggest question mark lies for me tonight is if our club captain is not getting it right on the pitch, and what's he doing off the pitch? And it just means everything's going wrong, in the back end, it's going wrong on the pitch. And you're just kind of looking at going, where do we go from here? Because yes, we can put Frank out tomorrow, but unless a big manager comes in and changes the whole mentality of this club, and then you've still got these same players that have got to last you the whole season, and they're the ones letting us down at the moment. And I think we really need to take a long look at some of them and go, have we bigged them up so much that they're starting to believe their own hype a little bit? And I'm including players like Van der Ven on it as well, because I don't think he had the best game today. He was okay. I'm including Spence on this because Spence, we bigged him up. He came in, he played okay-ish, but they're not producing it on the pitch on a consistent basis. And this is where our problems are starting to lie. And whether they're playing for Frank or not, it's a catch-22 situation, because the fight, as we say, when we went down to 9 men, is the exact fight we want to see at 11 men.
Agree.
And that's the biggest problem that we're having right now, is that we're not seeing it when we've got 11 men on that pitch.
Yep.
And yes, Xavi unfortunately gets sent off with his challenge, but where was the spark before that? We just didn't get onto Liverpool. Like, Liverpool were there for the taking, and we just seem to be like Kudos just summed up the whole game for me. he summed up the whole game up until we went down to 9 men. And until Richarlison came on, I should say, not 9 men. When Richarlison came on, things started to change and the attitude started to change on the pitch. It was too little too late by then.
Yeah. Mitch, we're going to bring you in. Love to see you back on the show. Look, it's another home defeat, right? I mean, again, I will echo what Luke said at the start of the show. I thought the supporters were absolutely magnificent. You know, they stayed with the team even after the red cards. And I think it's interesting. You know, the last time maybe you'd argue that the fans really kind of showed that atmosphere in the ground was the likes of the Frankfurt quarterfinal last season, the Chelsea match in 23-24, when we don't need to revisit it. We know what happens. And it's quite ironic when you think, you know, given the way it's been suggested recently, if we're true fans, if we're real fans, what kind of fans are we? You know, I thought the fans really did stick with the team. And just to back up what Luke said earlier, Hugo Ekitike said after the game, the fans of Spurs have been unbelievable. They pushed them. It was difficult for us. We have our own fans also, and they've also been great. But when Spurs scored, they were pushing, and it was difficult. And it was very physical. It was a great war. And yes, we won the game. And again, the frustration will be, Mitch, on this one, when there's been a lot of heat over Thomas Frank. Individual errors, Mitch, in this game utterly cost us. You know, I know, again, the Simons tackle or, you know, his approach, I think it's debatable whether it's a red card. But again, you give the referee a needless decision to make. Romero's was just plain rash. Before we hear from Thomas Frank in a second, Mitch, lovely to be back on the show. Thoughts on the overall game for you in terms of what you make of that?
Well, firstly, hello. Thank you for having me back on. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle tonight, I think. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit to what Marlon was saying. I agree with you on the Xavi Simons stuff. I think it was a debatable red card. The referee didn't give it as a red card. He gave it as a yellow card, and VAR decided that they thought it was serious foul play. I don't think so. I don't think it was intentional whatsoever. And I think Xavi Simons' lunge is just a little bit too far, and he catches the back of Van Dijk's leg, and he makes the most of it, to be honest with you. And also Romero's red card. I don't think any other player gets sent off for that moment at the end there, unless it's Cristian Romero. And at that point, you know, we're already chasing the game. There's only a couple of minutes left, and there's a lot more wrong with the game in general to that moment right there in the 93rd minute out of 99 or however many it was added on at the end there. So the fans, as you've said, were absolutely phenomenal. And I think maybe the players got a little bit caught up in that atmosphere. Maybe they were caught off guard by it a little bit today because of maybe how flat it's been in recent weeks. But the fans deserve a load of credit because they were fantastic and they did really, really push the players on. And yeah, it was just such a very mixed night for me watching that game. I still think the core issues are so evident at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And I want to make it very, very clear, right? That Liverpool team we played tonight, they are so far off it. They are so far from that team that won the Premier League last season. And that was a winnable game today. I thought even with 10 men, until we went into half time, I was still sat there thinking, do you know what? We could get a couple of goals here and we could go on and really get something out of this game. And, you know, it's just really, really difficult. They score their goal and then, you know, they grab a second one and all hope kind of goes out the window. Players sort of look like they've given up. And it's not until Richarlison comes on, because he's the god of coming on when the game's already gone from us and scoring goals and, you know, giving us that brief glimmer of hope. But it's too little too late. Ultimately, as you said, we've lost 11 games in 2025. I don't think we're getting any better than we were last season, than we were at the start of the season under Thomas Frank. And how long is that going to continue? Is buying players in the January transfer market going to solve those issues? Or are we seeing players...
Just let you come back in, Mitch. You've got to find out who will be bloody recruited at the moment if Fabio is leaving the club.
Well, exactly the point. You know, there's a lot of frustration. You know, Kudos has dropped off it quite a bit since the start of the season. Kolo Muani, for as much as I've praised him and he's been really, really good, he can't find a goal-scoring touch for whatever reason. He can't put the ball in the back of a net in the Premier League. But there's just so many variables to what's wrong at the club at the moment, and I just feel like it's so deep rooted that I'm lost. I said this to you before the start of the show, Ricky. I'm lost, and I just don't know where we go. I'm not a fan of Thomas Frank. I don't see him lasting very long. I wouldn't keep him, But then again, who do you bring in? What players do you bring in? Is it going to make everything better? The answer is probably no. So what do we do? I feel like I'm just spinning around in circles every single day at the moment. And I feel like we've been doing it for years at a time with that brief period of joy with that Europa League win last year. And then it's already back to normality. We've gone from the highest of highs in May all the way back down to the very bottom already. And it's just tiring.
Mitch, there'll be a lot of Spurs fans, if not all Spurs fans, that will echo your sentiments and how they feel. I didn't want to subject everyone to it at the start, but I will just take you through very quickly the brief match facts and stats. Like we know, it ended Tottenham 1, Liverpool 2. At Spurs, 15 shots are registered in the game to Liverpool's 8. 4 apiece on target for both sides. Tottenham did hit the woodwork once. Tottenham, 20 touches in the opposition box. Liverpool's 30. Again, we did end with 9 men, so maybe take that if you want to in consideration. Or maybe I'm giving Thomas Frank a get out there, maybe. Forward passes, Tottenham 1-2-4 to Liverpool's 1-8-5. Alisson was the busier of the 2 goalkeepers, 4 to Tottenham's 2 from Vicario. Corner count, Liverpool edging that stat, 6-2. And naturally, Liverpool, obviously, of course, having the extra couple of men in the end, but one for a large period. 65.1% of possession to Tottenham's 34.9%. Tottenham did register 1.01 XG during the game. Liverpool's was most certainly less than that. But again, reality is it's another home defeat for Tottenham. It's another defeat in general for Thomas Frank. Tottenham, if you aren't aware already, I'm sure you are for many out there, have made their worst start to a Premier League season in 17 years. What it means in terms of the table, and it is a live table this, because at the moment, at the time of recording, games are ongoing. Tottenham are down to 13th in the Premier League. We're currently on 22 points. We are, as things stands at the moment, 7 points off 5th place Liverpool. For those that feel a possibility, and people might laugh, that Tottenham could still finish in that top 4, top 5. In terms of maybe look at the other end, we don't want to look at the other end, but we have to maybe seriously consider the other end, because at the moment, Tottenham, as things stands at the moment, are only 2 points away from the dreaded bottom 4, bottom 5 teams. So, look, it is worrying times. But look, let's hear from Thomas Frank, who'll give us his overview of the game. I can ask you out there again, guys, for us. There's over nearly 3,500, 4,000 of you watching the show live. If you can, for us, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That will also allow you into the live chat. If you want to get interactive with the show and also hype to the show, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's hear from the Tottenham Hotspur head coach for now, Thomas Frank, who reacts on another home defeat, this time to Liverpool at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Plenty of character shown by your team going down to 10 and 9 men. What did you think of that, but also the 2 red cards?
I think overall it was a good performance tonight. I'm proud of the players and the team, how they responded to... I think actually the first 30 was also good from us. And how we responded to setbacks through the game, something we've been working very hard on. Because that's the biggest thing the best teams need to do. How do we respond to setbacks in a game? Because the best teams, they deal with that and move on and keep going. Stick to the plan, as we talked about before, structure and everything. And today I think we did that excellent. I think there was great personality and character in the team. Get the first red, which I've seen being given before. I also said before, definitely a few times in Brentford, also seen others. I don't like this as a red card. I think the game is probably too big to say gone, but for me it's not reckless. It's not that he's coming with exceptional force. He's chasing Van Dijk. He's trying to put pressure, and then he changed direction, and then unfortunately his foot is on his Achilles, and you can say, you need to be smarter, don't do it and all that, but so we're not allowed to have physical contact anymore. So that's the thing. So the next thing on that, if you get 3 days, which I don't understand, how can you get 3 days on something that's not reckless? That's absolutely wrong. We probably can't appeal him. Okay, so that was excellent. Responded excellent to that. Then second one was the 1-0 goal. Okay, we kept going, and then I think the second goal is a mistake from the ref. I think there's 2 hands in the back, clear 2 hands back. I don't understand it. How you can do that. Everywhere else we've seen that 1,000 times out there on the pitch. Someone go up in a header, a goal kick into the centre back, 2 hands in the back of the boom, foul. But apparently not in the penalties box. I think that was the biggest mistake, in my opinion. And from VAR. But apparently that was not enough. Yeah, we kept going.
And second red.
I also think we got on the wrong end on 2. You can see there's probably a reason why the whole team reacted as they do. I think that's probably a good indicator. Normally, if it's one player reacting, if the whole team, probably because there's something about it. I think that's we all played football enough and seen enough football. There's something probably around that. So I can't see if it's right or wrong that he gives the first yellow. Second yellow, I see 2 big boys competing. Konate is absolutely smashing through Kuti. It's a foul. It's nothing. I'm not saying more. His foot landed on Kuti's head. Not a yellow. I'm not saying that. Kuti makes a reaction. I think I guess it can be given, but also I guess it can be not given.
I know it's an emotional game, but does your captain have to kind of control his emotions when you're chasing that equaliser?
I think any player needs to control their emotions and be cool-headed. It's not only because you're a captain, then you need to be exceptionally cool-headed. That's also always good, of course. We're talking about a very passionate player that's been very good for this club and team in many years.
It certainly got the crowd back on board as well, didn't it? The commitment shown by the team, but also that sort of adversity. Is it sometimes it takes a little bit of that to get the crowd sort of really behind you and really pumped up?
Yeah, maybe I don't know. But definitely the crowd was excellent. The fans were excellent today. I think they kept us going throughout the game, and especially the last, let's say, 20. They almost sucked the second goal into the net as well. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. That would have been an excellent comeback.
Thomas, hi. Just slightly broader picture. That was Tottenham's 11th home league defeat in 2025. That's the most the club have ever had in a calendar year in their entire history. They've only won 4 league games at home in 2025, which is the second worst since 1915. Can I just get your reaction to that? And it's surely unacceptable.
I think it's fair to say, I said from the beginning, that it's so important that we do everything we can to make our home a fortress. And to make that home a fortress, we need more performances like we did today. Today there was a few bits that didn't go our way. I think also a great effort for Kolo Muani. If that goes in 1-1, a little bit of margin there, then probably don't concede the 2-0, then it's not a goal I need to discuss. And so all those things you need a little bit going your way. I think stats you can spin either way. Overall, we as a club need to make a home that is very difficult to come to.
Thomas, you just spoke about Xavi missing the next 3 games. I mean, how sort of disappointed are you for him? Because he'll feel like he's let the team down tonight. But even Arne Slot was saying then he's seen them not given this season against Liverpool.
Sorry again, sorry.
How sort of disappointed are you for Xavi? Because not only will he feel like he's let the team down today, he's now going to miss the next 3 games and a really busy period.
And you said something in the end?
Arne Slot said he's seen that decision against Liverpool a few times this season and not always be a red card as well.
That's why probably it's good Arne and I at least are agreeing on that one. So yeah, that's of course disappointing. I think it's I think it's harsh to say, because if it was intentional or a very stupid tackle, which I don't think it is, then it's one thing. So I just think it's too harsh that a tackle like that can be 3 days.
And how much are you going to miss him now over this busy festive period and him being sort of...
Of course, this 1 game, okay, that's one thing, but 3 games, of course, is too much.
Ricky, unmute. Rookie mistake.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Marlon. We've just heard there from Thomas Frank. Forgive me. I wanted to be on mute, guys, for the rest of the show. I already did compared to what we're going through at the moment. Spurs, like we said, they've suffered their 11th home defeat in 2025, their most ever in a single calendar year across the club's history. I think Mitch said something very poignant, at the start of this show, that there's not one issue. There's so many issues with regards to this football club, depending on how you want to start and where you want to go. Look, again, thanks always for the support out there. There's nearly over 6,500 of you that are watching some of our platforms. If you can, for us, guys, keep liking, subscribing, hyping to the show. That would be greatly appreciated. The crazy thing, Luke, to bring you in is Tottenham's performance in the first half an hour against Liverpool. I thought, and I know Marlon might disagree, I thought it was to some degree encouraging. Apart from the 2-0 victory against Man City, I thought we produced some of our better football that we've seen against a top Premier League side when you look at what we've really given over the course of those games against the Chelseas, the Arsenals. Let's be honest about it. But there's been such a disgraceful lack of discipline. And I will put Simons in that category as well, because it was a needless foul to make. And Romero, despite Frank there to some degree trying to stand up for him, so rash. And I think the thing with Romero is that I thought in the last 18 months or so, he hasn't been as rash. But what that happens is, for those that were listening to the commentary from Gary Neville, for example, that gives so much ammunition to those pundits to then once again go down that line of Romero being so rash. And it was. And you can't get away from that. But it is now, Luke, 2 wins out of 10. And out of all the ever-present teams, Tottenham picked up the least amount of points at home in the Premier League since November 2024. It's 17 points from 24 games. I think it's only, let's be honest about it, 4 wins out of the last 22 at home. Luke, there's a lot that's got to change here. I mean, where do we actually start? And where does this leave Thomas Frank's future right now for those that were really up to this point asking serious questions of him? Because I've got to be honest here, on that game for me, there's very little that I would be really against Frank on. I know substitutions Marlon touched upon. There was an argument about his timing of them. But can we pin this game on Frank?
No, I don't think it's fair to pin it on Frank. I think that you can use some traits that we've seen previously and say that we're still seeing them, but the game itself, I don't think it's fair to kind of pin on Frank. I think the guy has summed it up right, and I think you mentioned it as well about giving the ref a decision to make, and I think that's a fair statement about both the red cards. You could argue whether you think they're correct or whether they're not, but the players have given them a decision to make. Now, I'm firmly believe that most of the big decisions today, if it was the other way round, Liverpool wouldn't have got the results that what we got. So I think if Xavi Simons was playing for Liverpool, I don't think he gets sent off there. And I definitely think that the hands on the back, although it was soft, we see it with Van der Ven when against West Ham earlier on in the season. Soon as you raise 2 hands, regardless of how much contact you make, that is deemed a foul. And when you actually look at the other clip from behind the goal, it's not a nudge. They are straight armed pushing Romero in the back. And as I say, it's light. Don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, that's the way the game is now, and that should be given as a foul. I was really shocked by that. And then that means Romero doesn't get booked because that's a foul, and that's the reason that he gets booked. So I do agree with you. I do think that he gives them ammunition. However, I actually just missed the Romero first yellow card. I didn't see it. And then they showed it again afterwards. And the comments in the studio were Romero's run up to the ref and barged into him. Now, he literally touched his sleeve, possibly, is what he did. So I think that they are well over the top with some of the stuff that they describe Romero with, and I agree. I think towards the end of last season, particularly, he definitely seemed like he'd kind of calmed down a little bit, and the yellow cards weren't racking up as much as they previously were. But he's definitely seemed to have lost his head a little bit there, and I don't know whether he's taking the fact that he's the captain personally. Maybe that's part of it that's kind of feeding into him, but just making very, very silly errors. But I just feel like at the moment, we just get punished for everything at this moment in time. We're sort of in that rut. Obviously, the first goal was a pass that he gave away, but he was trying to break the lines, which is what he'd done previously twice in the game. One of which we nearly scored from when he released Bergvall down the right, and then the second one he played Moani and he's just overhit it a little bit, and actually Moani was in if he would have just played it correctly, and that's what he tries to do. But just in that moment, you just know you're down to 10 men. Just kind of take a second just to calm it down, and I think this is where Van der Ven is kind of like trying to influence him a little bit. And that's why I like the interview. I can see him now trying to step up as a leader, and hopefully he starts talking to Romero a little bit as well as the other way around. But as I say, it just at the moment, it just feels like we're that sort of club where the deflection that goes in for them goes towards their player and it doesn't for us. And I just feel like every 50-50 decision today went against us. And in terms of the first, like when you take into context the way we have been at home, and we've just mentioned, everyone just rattled off all the stats and figures about how poor we've been at home. I think it was a decent first half an hour. I do think it was.
I think it was.
But what does that mean if the next 60 minutes are not at the level that they need to be? And I'm not saying
I say back at that point, Luke, I did feel there was an adequate level of fight with 9 men. But to back up what Marlon said, there was degrees in that game in certain periods where we weren't seeing it. But I thought it was a good opening half hour. But we lose confidence, as you can see, when we go behind, don't we? We do.
Yeah, and then we've been talking about the fight, the determination, the endeavour for the last God knows how long. We've been saying we haven't seen it enough. No. So it's okay to show it when you're at 9 men with 5 minutes left, but we need to see it more on a consistent basis. And we're gonna, I'm sure that if it's not on this show, it will be on other shows we do. We'll talk about the quality and whether we need to buy players and whether we need to do this. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. You just need to work hard. That's the absolute basics of football. Just work hard. And when you come off that pitch, fans will know whether you've given it all. You can't con fans in that stadium. You can't pretend that we put in loads of effort and that they will know whether you did or didn't. And rightly so, towards the end particularly, there was loads of effort and the fans showed that they understood that. And if you do that more often, A, we won't lose as many games, and B, you won't be getting issues with fans not accepting performances because they'll understand that we will lose odd games here and there, but that the fight and the determination, that's an absolute bare minimum. Like we shouldn't be coming on a podcast and celebrating the fact that we see some fight.
It's ridiculous.
Like we shouldn't be.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's indicative, really, of the stats we read out on this show and where we've fallen to. That we're having now to have that as a common comfort that we're praising effort, which is ridiculous, really. Luke, just to finish with you before we go to Marlon, just in terms of Frank, then at the moment, continue as what we've seen. Is that your vibe at the moment with regards to Frank, or is the biggest issue at the moment? If Tottenham did want to change it, there's very little options out there to change it right now that would give the squad. You might get an immediate uplift, but long term, what's going to change? I keep on saying this. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the players. You know, a lot of players watch the show, coaching staff members watch the show. This is a really, really, in my opinion, poor squad. And I don't want to be rude or, dismissive to players, but, when we look at the last 2 years' worth of stats, I think since Ruben Abrams come in, Tottenham, 41 points amounted now out of what it would have been 43 games. I mean, that is a damning indictment of where our squad is at. It's nowhere near the level. And whilst you are right, Luke, fans will praise fight, commitment, effort. The quality for me just isn't there, Luke, to let you quickly touch upon that Frank element before we go to Marlon.
Yeah, I completely agree. The quality element, it does need to be addressed. However, we're not as bad as that graphic shows. We're not as bad as the points we've picked up. We shouldn't be losing as many games as we have.
I do agree on that. I agree.
As, for instance, today, Brentford have just gone in front of us. And when we beat Brentford a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the fans, including people in the chat, were going, yeah, we beat a really poor Brentford side. Okay, well, they're above us at this moment in time.
They are indeed. They are.
So this is what I'm saying, is that is this squad good enough to be where we want to go? No. But is it better than where we're at? Absolutely it is. But I said this all last year, and I was saying it during the summer. We need to have a clear identity about where this club wants to go and what we want to do. And for me, that's a way of playing is part of that. And we need to identify that and then bring players in and managers in that fit this. Because what happens is you get rid of Frank, you bring in someone else who plays a different style. The players don't necessarily fit that. And it all becomes a bit of a problem. Everything becomes a bit of a muddle. You've got players playing under a manager that don't necessarily fit the system. And this all becomes just more and more what happens, and you need to have a focus on where you want to go. I think that if we was now at a summer period, then I think they would potentially be looking at other options. Right now, I don't feel that there's a change that needs to take place just now. However, we definitely start needing to see something change and very, very quickly. And I said quickly before, and it's getting more varies in that it's getting quicker and quicker. This change that needs to take place.
Yep, Marlon, let's come over to you. Look, I said at in the beginning part of the show, this is still our worst start to a Premier League campaign in over 17 years. There's question marks definitely over the squad. There's question marks over Thomas Frank. But again, I think you touched upon the fact, Marlon, that you were really confused by one of these subs during the game. And I think what many are alluding to is that there was a point where he's now brought Polina on at 2-0 down in 2 consecutive matches, which to some was absolutely baffling. But then again, to balance that, there was a valiant effort there towards the end where a lot of people were expecting a brutal morning of Tottenham, right? There was people expecting the side to be absolutely battered. So again, this is a real difficult one to try and judge in terms of where we are right now, because I think the fans did, pardon the pun, spur the players on. But where are we right now, Marlon, for you in terms of, I don't want to say the problems because this could be a long, long show, but where are we right now in terms of the manager, the squad, and what needs to change if there's going to be an uplift? Because right now, I feel like Mitch said in his kind of intro at the start of the show, all Spurs fans right now are just so depressed. Christmas is on the horizon. It's meant to be a festive time. There's very little festivity going on at this football club right now and very little happiness going on. And fans are similar to how they felt 12 months ago at exactly the same point when we lost at home to Liverpool. And the mood was toxic then. And I think it's even more toxic now. And let's be honest about it. We're seeing more and more home games, for example, at the moment, going up for guest sale. Fans at the moment are so frustrated and angry, but I will give the fans so much credit that they were with the players right through to the end of that game. Marlon, stop me talking. Take me away. Where are we right now?
I was hoping that you'd take over the question. Look, Spurs are probably where they should be if we look at our squad. No, listen, wait, because you've just said the squad is not good enough. So if the squad is not good enough, where are we all expecting us to be right now? The manager's obviously not getting the tactic correct. He's not managing the situation. And I'll give you a more damning thing right now. Do you remember the other 2 managers we were linked with in the summer last year? Ariola.
Yep.
And Marco Silva.
Yep.
Yep.
And both those clubs are below
13th, 14th, and 15th.
Yeah.
So if the manager goes, that's where we're. This is the problem. There's a more deep-rooted problem inside the club that is the problem. And I think what it's allowing them to do, it's allowing the players to relax. It's allowing Frank, this mediocre manager, to come in and give us mediocre football. That's exactly what we're getting. And at this present moment, everyone is going, oh, we should be here, we should be there. But actually, when we look at it and deep it and look at the situation, there was a reason why we wanted Daniel Levy out. Because we all said at the time, he was taking us backwards. Well, he only went at the beginning of September. He was still here in that summer. So why was we expecting such a drastic change when the players we've brought in, like Kudos today, he's meant to be the £60 million player that we've brought in, and the effort from him today was absolutely ridiculous. He is walking across that pitch. Who's that down to? Is that down to the way he's now mentally in the club? Is that the way Frank wants him to play? No, come on, because we have to look at it. None of us want Richarlison to play. But look, Richarlison was the only man today.
It's a culture, man. It's
a culture problem. And this is where I'm at with it. I'm like today, I didn't expect us, even though I think Mitch said it at the beginning, I wasn't expect this Liverpool side was there and gettable and they were beatable. However, this is Tottenham Hotspur right now, and what we've been going through, and our home form is crap. Everything about the club's been absolutely awful in this last month. I think the only 2 good games that we've literally had were Brentford and Slavia Prague. And even not Slavia Prague, because I dismissed that. I think Brentford was the only decent game, but I said at the time I was worried. It was because he knew that squad and he knew how to play. And that was my worry at the time. And literally, that's literally what's happened. So we're back to where we are. So let's go back. We've all just said the players are not doing this, the players are not doing that. So why are we expecting us to be any higher than where we are? Because
so in your opinion, Miles, so that you come back in, I don't want to cut you. In your opinion, Tottenham at the moment, we're 13th in the Premier League table.
Yep.
Based on the squad we've got, based on the manager we've got,
yep.
You think that's right? You think we're a 13th place team at the moment, Marlon?
I probably do. And the reason why I'm saying that, because yes, I know these players go away for international duty and they're completely different players. But again, what we discussed earlier is the mental stability of the club that's these players to be where they are. And we could go out and buy another 3 or 4 players in January. Okay, they could be 60, 50 million pound players. But if the mentality in that club has not changed, and they're going to come in and do exactly what Kudos did today. Paulinho's not even getting a game at the moment. Like this is where we're at.
He's getting a game. He's bringing him on, and fans are saying he's bringing him on at the wrong time.
Yeah, and this is the issue right now. Like look at our midfield today. Everyone's been harping about how good Gray is, and he's going to be the next year. This game just passed him by today. Another game that's passed him by. Like, what we doing here? Like, we have to kind of think, where I know our Spurs fans think we should be doing a lot better than we are, but let's just take the whole thing now and see what's been going on for this. It's not just this year, last year, the year before. There's so much that's going on, and I think for us right now, we've got to look. I think the Europa League, it was great that we won it. It was absolutely brilliant. It was a brilliant night.
Yep.
But the club still went and signed a Thomas Frank to come in as manager who couldn't play 2 games a week. And then we're expecting Spurs to be high up on the table. Come on, it doesn't make sense.
Marlon, I think I might be wrong here.
But don't get me on this whole better
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is suggesting with Frank that you come back in is that I think, and I might be wrong here, Mitch will come on into it in a second as well. He's got a lot to say about Frank, to be frank. That at the moment, I think what fans were expecting is, yes, there was an acknowledgement the squad is nowhere near it needs to be, but I can't speak for all Tottenham fans. I think a lot of Tottenham fans would have felt there would have been a lot more consistency and defensive solidarity to Tottenham, which
there was. At one point there was, but what did everyone moan about? Paulinho and Bentancur. As soon as he stopped doing that, have you noticed how many goals we started conceding?
He's opened it up. My biggest worry is that I think he might be listening to the outside noise.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. Like, everyone doesn't want Bentancur. I get, like you've said it, you don't want Bentancur and Paulinho playing at home. But now we're kind of seeing why he had to go down that route, because what it's then is opened this back four that we all praise and say that's all brilliant.
Would people mind them playing at home together if we were going to produce an XG over 1?
I think that's the big problem. The reason why people didn't want them together is because we wanted to attack.
Let's go to XG. What was Liverpool's XG today?
It was poor. I mean, I might be wrong, but it was around the figure
How many
of
shots did they have on goal?
0.06.
First shots on target, but the XG was poor. But they've come out of the game winning 2-1.
Yeah.
So XG is a stat that we can sit there and throw, but it's not concrete. The problem that I've always had is that we don't create enough. I think that's when we're not creating, when we've got the squad that we have, I believe that we should be creating a lot more than we have done. But when we look at this whole bigger cycle, at this present moment, our forward line is not anywhere near.
No, of course it's not.
It's where we want it to be.
Yeah, better at Brentford. Of course he did.
So we're all looking at it going, oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. But actually, let's just take a step back. If you look at other teams that are not fearing Tottenham Hotspur, no other team is fearing Tottenham. We don't have a Harry Kane, we don't have a Son anymore. We're not there. We're literally, our only outlet at the moment is Kudos. And today, that was gone. That was absolutely gone. So are we now looking at a system where we've just got a lot of players right now that we clearly, as fans, need to stop putting them on this pedestal, thinking they are better than they are, and going, Ange got a tune out of them in the first year, but last year just got them through the cup. The Europa, he got them through the cups, but just couldn't get. He dropped the Van der Ven and.
Well, we heard from Mickey during the week about the interview about the adjustment. Yeah, the
adjustment. He had to make the adjustment because he needed a fit squad. Now we've come to this season. We've had until recently when we had Paulinho and Bentancur in front of them. All of a sudden, they're all starting to look shaky. So why the hell are we sitting there going, what we should be doing better than we are? Because we've asked for attacking football.
Well, I'll tell you why we are, because the club, ENIC 2.0 rebranded, turned around and said to the fans that the Europa League win was going to be the springboard for further success. The fans didn't say that. They said that, right? Yeah. So that is the expectation they've set. Whether it's rightly or wrongly, Marlon, they've set that expectation.
Yeah, and they've said it, and then they've given the squad that we got, and look. I never took that seriously. I remember I came on in the summer and I never took it seriously. I was like, this is just good PR. We're all sitting there trusting Vinay, who came from Arsenal. And I've always said this, he still has to prove himself.
Of course he does.
At the same time, everyone was always going, Arteta this, Arteta that with Thomas Frank. But why is Thomas Frank could be our Unai Emery? Because they employed Unai Emery at Arsenal. It could be the first bit before they go and get it right later on. We don't know. But from what I'm seeing, it's not. There's more that we need to see.
Look, I need to go to Mitch. Marlon, I need to go to Mitch. But very quickly, Marlon, just before I go to Mitch, very quickly right now. Thomas Frank for you stays in position, right? There's no one out there to change him right now. He's going to stay there, right?
I've got to just go back to my comment earlier. 2 other managers that we were linked with are sitting below him right now in the table. If that's our options, where do we go?
I mean, there are other managers out there, but whether, again, they're out
But it's
there,
down to Tottenham, yeah, and whether they want to come
and
in.
they've got to get the man right. And at the moment, you've got a sporting director that might be leaving the football club and the assistant departing. Mitch, just bring you in. So you had to wait so long there, Mitch, to come back into the show.
That's all right.
Oh, Mitch, I just, I mean, we said, where do we start? Where do we finish? Where do we go? Where's the middle ground right now? So much frustration around the players, around the manager, around the culture, around the whole football club right now, Mitch. How do we fix this? What are the steps to fixing it right now, Mitch? Because at the time of recording, the sporting director looks like he's leaving. And I keep on saying at the moment, one of the coaches looks like he's off as well. And players are making reckless decisions, choices. And there's a manager, let's be honest about it, who I think is, based on this game for me, not the biggest problem. Let's make that very, very clear. But there's definitely a split right now as to whether he's the right man moving forward. Mitch, take it away. Where are we in your mind?
I'm going to look past just the Liverpool game today because I think it's a much bigger picture issue. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club at the moment absolutely reek of mediocrity. From top to bottom, we are mediocre. The manager is mediocre, came from a mediocre club, and that is what we are seeing at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club now. The people at the top of the club are mediocre, making promises to us already after that Europa League win, which have probably not unexpectedly raised expectations, and it's causing backlash, and that is not surprising. And we have a group of mediocre players, more mediocre than world-class or top players in that squad at the moment. So is the answer to just root everything up and rebuild it properly? Let's not forget, Daniel Levy's parting gift to us Tottenham fans was appointing Thomas Frank as our manager. Like he was involved in that process. So, we are still hurting from the impact of that man, and we are still seeing the effects of that. And as Marlon made so many good points a few minutes ago. Are we a European chasing team? I think the expectation we all have is that, yes, we should be. And on paper, and I hate using this term because football doesn't really work like that these days, but on paper, we have some very good players, right? On paper, Kolo Muani, come from PSG. He's a fantastic player. He was pretty decent at Juventus last season. On paper, Cristian Romero is a World Cup winner. On paper, Mickey van der Ven is one of the most athletically capable and most exciting centre-backs in the world. But the reality is we're sitting in the bottom half of the table, exactly where we were sitting last season under a different manager before the Brentford win last weekend in the Premier League. Do you know the last Premier League game we won before that Brentford game, Ricky? Can you remember it?
Last Premier League win. They've been so infrequent.
Everton on the 26th of October was the last time we won a Premier League before that Brentford game, right? And you've got all of those results that came along the way. Obviously that draw against Wolves, the horrible losses to Fulham and to Bournemouth at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I just feel like we are unfortunately in a phase at the club where there is so much work that needs to be done. It's not a single issue of replacing the manager or just replacing or bringing in a couple of players in the January transfer market. I actually think Paratici going might be a bit of a blessing in disguise. I was never necessarily behind the Langer and Paratici model of working together. I don't really believe in any of those guys at the top of the club. Anyway, I don't think fans should have to lower their expectations about Tottenham Hotspur Football Clubs for a number of different reasons, because we've seen what we can be, and I've said this before on the show, we've seen what we can be, albeit a few years ago now under Pochettino. We've seen what this club is capable of. But I just feel like we don't prioritize the right things. I don't think we prioritize winning. And if that culture is going to change in this so-called new era under ENIC 2.0, as you like to call them, then is having Thomas Frank at the helm and leading us the right decision? And I still think that's not the answer to that is no. And I'm looking past the Liverpool game today, right? Because you guys are right. It's not necessarily all on him for today. There were some individual mistakes, some refereeing decisions, whatever you want to mark it down as. But we've lost more games in the Premier League than we've won this season. We've played 17 games now. We've lost 7 of them. We've won 6. Leeds are winning 3-0 as it stands at the time of recording. So we will be they'll be 3 points off of us. And they're in a relegation battle, right? If Nottingham Forest manage to win their game, we'll be, I think, maybe 1 point extra off the bottom 4, that 17th place that we finished last season. So there needs to be some serious reflection inside that club, because I think that we deserve better. I think the fans that go every single week and they pay their £1,000+ for their season tickets at that stadium deserve so much better. I think the fans deserve better, and they do not deserve to be called out by the manager for not being loyal or not wanting
real
to stick
or
with him,
true,
or real, any of that sort of stuff. I think the players need to have a look at themselves and stop with this stupid standard in the centre circle and acting unified and turning it on the fans, because we are the least of the problems at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And if we are going to, unify and come together and turn this round and actually have a positive attitude about Spurs going forward, then there's just so much that needs to change. And that change needs to start now.
Mitch, you said something there, just to let you finish off what you were saying there about the fact it might be a blessing if Paratici does depart the football club. And for those that aren't aware, again, this has been a running story really in the build-up to the Liverpool game. And that story, for those that aren't aware, is that Fabio Paratici has been courted by Fiorentina in Italy, and he is understood to be giving genuine consideration to go in there, for those that aren't aware of that. And it's led to believe he's being offered a 5-year contract to join the Italian club. The worry, I think, for a lot of fans out there would be, Mitch, is that we are meant to be, I mean, whether we are or not is another question, we're meant to be planning for a January transfer window. We're meant to be planning to improve the squad. What does it say if one of those newly appointed sporting directors is departing the club in literally a matter of months, where Tottenham stood by him through quite literally that phrase, trials and tribulations? What does that say, Mitch, about the overall culture of the football club, that man is already looking to get away from us in the space of however many months, regardless of if you think he's brought in the right players, regardless of if you think he's appointed or been a part of discussions over appointing certain managers? Again, I know the Nuno one was very much a Paratici appointment. What does that tell us, Mitch, though, the fact he may be looking to leave the club?
I think it tells us the new system that we've got in place at the top and in charge of the scouting and the transfers is not going in any way that Paratici wants it to go. It's probably just not a dynamic that he likes. I think he's a man that likes control. He likes power. He likes to have the final say. And I would imagine with these reports coming out, he is not entirely happy with how the plans for the January transfer window have gone. Because I would imagine that Langer and Paratici and maybe even Thomas Frank's ideas as to players that they all individually think that we should sign in January might be quite different. And I feel like the club are doubling down on wanting to give Thomas Frank time and the opportunity to turn things around. So it makes me think maybe he's having more of a say on the kind of player or specific players. You'd hope that they are targeting specific players at this point, as we're a week and a half away from January or whatever it is to come to the club. So ultimately, Ricky, it doesn't look good, does it? When you make such a big deal about changing the whole thing at the start of the season, and you sit them down and you do these long interviews and push it out onto the fans, Vinay leading all of the media stuff, and you got those two sort of sitting there trying to look happy, sat next to each other, and then 3 or 4 months later, he's about to leave. That can't be a good thing. That can't be just because the opportunity has arisen for him to go back to Italy or to join Fiorentina. But I would imagine once and if it happens, we will find out what's gone on behind the scenes. I feel like stuff like that always makes its way out there. So I am quite intrigued to know the actual reasoning behind it. But it's just a mess. It just sums up the mess that we're still in, Ricky, and are continuing to be in for however knows how long it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm very conscious we haven't spoken much about the Liverpool game. We're going to come on to that in a second. Obviously, not too much about it because, again, look, it's more key incidents than really a whole game to really restore and go through. But it's a mess. It is a mess, and I think we're sick of just being in this continual cycle of a mess without any real light at the end of a tunnel. Where at the moment it just feels, whether it's game after game or incident after incident, it just raises more and more talking points. Thomas Frank, I think, when you look at the overall picture of that game, like we touched upon, there's a good half an hour in there to start with against, again, whether they are a top team or however you want to judge Liverpool this season, it was a weakened side. We did give a good account of ourselves in the opening half hour. We lose confidence after conceding the first goal for sure. Obviously, Xavi Simons gets sent off. Romero with the rashness. There's just a lot of ill discipline right now. And my worry is just how invested actually everyone is in the football club. And what I mean by invested, I mean from the owners down. I'm sure Thomas Frank wants to be here. I mean, although he looks absolutely knackered already in the job in the last 4, 5, 6 months. He looks like that man already that's gone through the ringer. Like we've seen the likes of Postecoglou look and Mourinho and Conte and Pochettino, bless him. And again, Nuno for the short period he's here. But it just at the moment feels it's just a lot of questions with at the moment very little answers. We are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. Let's hear from Guillermo Vicario, who's been rolled out to do the player interview on the back of Spurs being beaten to Liverpool by 2-1, and we'll come on to some of those key incidents that have seen Tottenham suffer yet another home Premier League defeat. Let's hear from Guillermo Vicario.
Vic, thanks for joining us. It's difficult to know where to start with a game like that, but there's an enormous amount of pride to be taken from the way that the lads stuck in there at the end.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have to be very proud of ourselves tonight, especially the way we handled it in the second half. Also after the first red card, I think we stick to the game plan, and we said this among ourselves at the break. And yeah, of course, unlucky in some sort of situation to concede these 2 goals tonight, but then great character, great effort and mentality to get back into the game. And the feeling, I think, from everyone in the stadium today was that we could have easily overturned this result. So I think we have to take home some good notes tonight, because in terms of like mentality and character and all these kinds of things.
Just take us into half-time. You mentioned there that you kind of regrouped. What was the plan for the second half, and how did you communicate at half-time as to what you were going to go out and do?
Yeah, the plan was exactly what we tried to do in the first half, also with the men less on the pitch. So I think we've done it. Then of course we've conceded the 1-0 that could have drawn a little bit us down, and then the 2-0. But then I think I come back to what I said before in terms of what we showed in terms of character tonight. I think has been brilliant by everyone tonight. So a lot of positives to take from this game. The disappointment, of course, to have lost a game of football, but I think with a little bit or more luck in some situation, we could have could be now and be speaking about a different game and especially a different result tonight.
What the guy's saying in the dressing room, Vic, because you're exactly right. You can package this up and now take it to Palace, take it to Brentford, can't we?
Yes, I think this is the main bit. Of course, now we're gonna have a long week in which we can push, we can train hard to get ready to Palace away, and I think we need to take these positives of tonight into the next matches, not just into the next one, but is some fuel that has to feed us, and this is the most important bit. So I think today, in terms of mood, of course we are disappointed because of the result, but we know that we deserve more because we showed on the pitch and was there. I'm sure that the fans have felt this inside the stadium. So a lot of good things. Now a big week ahead before we're going Palace away, and we're going to be ready.
Vic, well played tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well done, Vic. Well done, mate. Thank you.
So yeah, that was Guillermo Vicario there on the back of Tottenham Hotspur suffering another home defeat in the Premier League, their most ever in Premier League history across a calendar year. not good at all. We're joined by Luke over at Spotlight on Spurs. We're joined by Marlon over at Spurs Kings. We're joined by Mitch Fretton. Please, guys, if you can, go and show these guys some love. Go and please subscribe to their respective platforms. Love to have them all together on Last Word on Spurs. If you can, for us also, keep liking, keep subscribing, hype the show as well if you can. That would be greatly appreciated. If you want to get interactive in the chat, if you hit that subscribe button, it should allow you in. And look, as we mentioned, on a side note, for those that aren't aware, Matty Wells, Spurs assistant head coach, not along Thomas Frank in the dugout for the game. MLS side, the Colorado Rapids, are eager to appoint him as their next head coach. It would be Matt Wells' first managerial position. A big, big step up for him. It looks like he is going to depart Tottenham's coaching staff and take that opportunity to go into management. If he does, we wish him all the very, very best. Again, he's got close ties with the club. Of course, Cliff Jones, Tottenham legend, of course, linked to him. So, look, we wish him all the very, very best. I know we've touched upon it a couple of times throughout the show, but to bring you that latest on what I've shared with Mitch there, we've gone backwards and forwards on that conversation as well, that Fiorentina have approached Tottenham director Fabio Paratici to appoint him as their new head of football. Negotiations are underway over a long-term deal as Fiorentina see him as a key part of their project. Paratici is open to joining the Viola long-term and to be a key figure for the club's rebuilding. Paratici, according to Fabrizio Romano, has chances to leave Tottenham with formal steps still needed, but talks are ongoing. And the key thing being, Paratici is keen on a return to Italy. Any more news during this show, we'll bring it to you. In terms of the lineup for this one, as we mentioned there, Frank just making the one change. We saw Bergvall, Gray and Bentancur start together in midfield. Richie dropped to the bench. Xavi, Kudos, Kanamawani all in. It looked like a 4-2-3-1 as it set up with Gray and Bentancur sitting. Bergvall tucked in from the left with Radu Kanamawani preferred to Richarlison as the 9. Radu Dragusin back on the bench. So Tottenham's team red for this one, which Marlon again claims not for him. Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Spence, Bentancur, Gray, Bergvall, Xavi, Kudos, Kanamawani with a bench of Kinski, Dragusin, Danzo, Davis, Paulina, Johnson, Odebear, Richarlison, Tell. Look, we've spoke up on the fact, Marlon, we'll come to you to start with on the kind of analysis quickly. Was a good first half an hour from Tottenham, but really, we leave ourselves in a difficult situation where the half an hour we did have, whilst it might have been a decent half an hour, goes completely out the window when Xavi Simons puts himself in a position where he gives the referee a decision to make over catching Virgil van Dijk and whether it was a sending off. Of course, it was reviewed at the monitor. And it's a weird one because I think, Marlon, to let you come in, the slow-mo really makes it worse, doesn't it? You know, but maybe in real time, it's never a red. But with the laws as they are right now, the tech has, in effect, kind of almost rewritten the laws, Marlon. I mean, what's your take on it when you watch it back in slow back? And then from a still, it looks a red card, doesn't it? Whether you believe in real time it is or not.
Yeah, look, the first half an hour is Ricky's opinion, not mine, but hey ho. But on the red card, I go back to Curtis Jones on Basuma when when And was doing well. Now, we all said at the time, was it a red card? In today's law, it's a red card, unfortunately. We can't get away from it. So today goes in the same bracket. It's a red card. It's reckless. It's putting a player. It's endangering an opponent, which he got sent off for. We can't argue with that, no matter how much we want to go back to. Oh, but Van Dijk did it against Solanke last season. That was wrong. He should have been sent off. We know he should have been. The ref got it wrong that day. Yeah. So you can't sit there and go, but it's this, that, and the other, because you have to take it for what it is today. And right now, as we speak right now, the decision is correct. No matter if we like it or not, it is the correct decision. And for me, it was kind of like with the ref today, I thought where he got things wrong was all the little decisions. But when you actually when you go back to the big decisions, I could sit there and argue about. I know we're going to go on to Romero and the push on the back. Personally, I thought it was a foul, but most people, from what I'm reading, are saying, "No, it's not a foul. He should be getting up for that." So again, it's an opinionated decision on that one. So you have to sit there and go, did he actually get anything wrong? Because for me today, that Xavi thing is a red card. I called him stupid when I saw it. It's unfortunate. Yes, he's right, because I think he's come out and said he would never try and endanger his club captain for his country, which you have to take, But unfortunately, in this situation, as we saw it, he's given a ref a decision. Unfortunately, for us, it's a red. In today's game. I'm not saying it's personally for me. I wouldn't say I would go, but Curtis Jones was sent off. Like, I'm going to use that because that's where I'm using the metric. You can't sit there and go, but it only happens to Spurs because Curtis Jones, they were fuming that day.
Of course, when
that happened, and we were like, "No, he's in danger," and he stamped on Basuma, and that was.
Yeah. And look, we've been on the end also to come in there on some, horrendous decisions over Liverpool over a number of years. I don't need to remind people of that, but also we were in favour of one of them in, of course, Andy's first season, where again that kind of boiled piss for how many weeks? I mean, it felt like years. It was boiling piss even that moment. Luke, to bring you in, I mean, I do think it's debatable, but it's also brainless from Simons, who was having, at that moment, a really poor individual display. Frank was not happy with the decision. Some fans actually clapped Xavi off the pitch, but this is a guy that's clearly also lacking a degree of confidence, isn't it? Because you can just see the frustration within him that whether we're not playing to his strengths, whether he can't get to the grips of the league, it's a needless decision to make, Luke, isn't it? In a game, we're honest about it. We wanted to see a performance against a weakened Liverpool side where I think we keep 11 on the pitch, like Mitch and Marlon have said as well, in terms of the team that goes out there. That's a beatable Liverpool side. But the minute you go a man down and then a goal down, it's proven to be a difficult task. But I thought we did fight well with 10 and then 9 men.
Yeah, no, definitely. As you say, he's give the ref a decision to make, and he just absolutely shouldn't. He's nowhere near the ball. I think it's a it's a similar foul to the one that Anthony Gordon done against him a couple of weeks back, Van Dijk. But Anthony Gordon's one, he was running at full pace, and it's crazy to me that both of them challenges are going to end up being 3-game bans. Like, they are completely different. One is absolutely in day. Like, Xavi Simons is never going to injure Van Dijk for a long period with that sort of tackle. It's more like a rake, if anything, if nothing else. But Anthony Gordon's one, he was running at full pace, and that one was really, really dangerous. And they're both going to be the same thing. They're both going to be 3 games. So, but he should just never. He didn't even need to make it. It wasn't like it was in the middle of a difficult situation where he needed to bring him down or anything like that. It's just such a needless thing to do, and that seems to be part of the issue. Again, it's just that making crazy mistakes and doing really weird stuff. Now he's actually done it a few times. Some of the tackles that he's done, I remember him being on a yellow and he brought someone down again and could have potentially got a second yellow in his first few games, I think. So he needs to be careful with that because you can put yourself in a bad predicament. But 100%, Mitch mentioned it earlier, This was not a vintage Liverpool team. This is a team that is very, very gettable. And it could actually be, the more it kind of settles a little bit, we could actually be sitting there as fans going, that was actually a really winnable opportunity. Like, if we would have had 11 on the pitch and actually going back, I think we did have a decent half an hour. And actually going into half time, we had the best chance in the game. Moani should have scored and we should have been 1 up. So, I don't think, as I say, you can't expect a team that have lost as many games as we've lost to come out against the Liverpool team, albeit struggling. But I don't think they've lost a game in 4. I think there have been 4 unbeaten. They're starting to go into it. You can't expect us to be coming out all guns blazing and play fantastically great football. It's always going to be a case, especially in these big games, of kind of easing yourself in the first 15, 20 minutes and kind of not conceding an early goal, not getting the fans on your backs, that sort of stuff. So I think it was a decent opening half hour. And as I say, going into half time, you shouldn't miss them sort of chances. That's what we're doing at this moment in time. We're just missing them sorts of chances, and it shouldn't happen. If we go in 1-0 up, it's completely different. But as you say, 10 men, it knocks the game plan. It's the first time Frank's had like a week where he can really sit down and kind of go through it. I think something very similar happened to Bergvall a couple of weeks back when we had a few good days of being able to really train and put in a thing, and then Bergvall goes off with a concussion and it throws the game plan out almost immediately. But there's so many different caveats to this. I don't think you can look in any one direction. I think there's so many. But I will say, just going off of that Vicario interview, Vicario said very, very proud so many times, and Frank said excellent so many times.
Oh yeah, mentality.
Come on, guys. Like,
this is what's worrying me, Luke. The words the words being mentioned there, mentality and proud. We've lost another home game. It's 2 wins in 10. I'm not feeling very proud. I'm not feeling great about the mentality. Why
Yeah.
does Marlon look confused? Why is Marlon looking
You
confused?
both said, that the first half an hour was great. Have you seen our stats for the first half?
I didn't say great. I
No,
said
no, no,
it was
no,
a
no,
decent,
but
it was a
I
decent half an hour.
I need to get Mitchie. I need to bring Mitchie, but I used the word encouraging.
Encouraging.
I used the word
Very
encouraging.
similar to what we've had in our home games before.
Marlon, it was encouraging based on the fact Liverpool are a
No, but it goes back to Mitch's,
higher
but it goes back to Mitch's point. Liverpool are an awful side. That wasn't encouraging for me. I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys saw, but it wasn't encouraging for me.
We've been so walked over the last 18 months. I don't know what to be encouraged about anymore. So if I can't be encouraged about half hour of a game, when am I ever going to be encouraged?
But you are encouraged. You were encouraged by that last half an hour. In the last half an hour in the fight,
I was encouraged, and I thought the start wasn't terrible. I didn't think it was terrible.
We should have been one up, and there's been so many games this year where we haven't created one chance in 90 minutes. So we should have been one up. Bawani should be scoring that goal.
We were 2-0 to Fulham in the opening 6 minutes, Marlon. So you can't say I can't be encouraged by a little bit of it, surely.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that one. I don't know what because it was so boring in that first half. It was boring. For both sides, and that's why I'm sitting there going, if that was encouraging. That's a sad state of affairs that we are as a fan base.
Hold on, I agree with you.
This is hold on. This is where we're at. But this is where we're at. It goes back to what Mitch said. This is where we're literally being fed. I think like Crackers always says on the show, you're trying to make chicken soup out of chicken shit. This is where we are at the moment. We are literally where we are right now.
I was probably watching a different game. I must have, but the first half an hour.
I wish I was.
It was for me. It wasn't a case of. It wasn't a case of where I thought we were good. I just think it was just such a rubbish game for both teams. They were both poor sides. It wasn't great, and that's why I said the last when after that we conceded the second, we were better. You could see we were clearly better. We had more shots. We were more on their goal, and that's when we had less men. But in the first half, I was just like, "What am I watching?" So that's me. I'm a bit confused. And like,
look, I can't be honest. I think I'm so warped by the last however many months with Tottenham that you get to a point where you think a good performance is you not conceding two within 6 minutes.
I just wanted to bring my different pennies worth on it because you both said it now, and I'm like, was I clearly what? Because I obviously I didn't watch Forest last week because of different scenarios, different situations. But the first half was. If I had to pay for that today, I felt sorry for the fans. That's why it was so good for me.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to justify anything we're watching right now because it shouldn't be good enough. Mitch, I do need to bring you in. Sorry to bring you back in. Just Xavi Simons very quickly before we do need to move on. Look, Xavi's not set the world alight. Let's be honest about it. He's not been great. There was some decent signs of kind of maybe uplifting. I thought the Man United game, for example, Copenhagen, he was okay. Brentford, Slavia Prague, but then you now lose him for the next 3 games, Mitch, where he's a player you would want to have. Again, with a side that's, let's be honest about it, deemed to have very little creativity. He's now out of Brentford on, forgive me, the 28th. You've not got him for then. Palace on the 1st. He's obviously not available for that. And then Sunderland on the 4th. So missing the next 3 games, Mitch, in a side where he's lacking creativity. How concerning is that generally? And how concerning is that confidence-wise for him?
It's extremely concerning considering the teams that we're coming up against in the next few weeks play low blocks. And we now are missing...
Superb point.
We're now missing our chief guy that we really want to penetrate that. For the record, Marlon, I agree with you on your last point, by the way. I don't think we're very good. I think it's very much... I will move on from it because I know you're conscious, Ricky, of how much we're going on. But I think what it was we maybe controlled the ball a bit better, but it was the same thing I've seen so much under Thomas Frank this season where we get the ball up the pitch, but we don't do anything with it and we don't significantly threaten. And I think it made us look better today because Liverpool didn't really create as much either. I don't think they had a shot on target in the first half, but our stats weren't much better having looked at them. But back to the Xavi point, I really like Xavi Simons, and I've always said I think he's going to be a really important player for us. And I've actually been quite encouraged with how he's played for us since he's come to the club. I've always advocated for him to get more starts and more minutes under Thomas Frank when he had that spell on the bench. And I've always said I don't. Obviously, it's frustrating to watch when he can't play a 5-yard pass to the right player, or it misses him, or it goes out, or whatever it is. But I don't mind that sort of stuff if he's trying to make things happen in other areas of the pitch, which I feel like he is trying to do. And the one thing that I've said about Xavi and his struggles to the start of his life at Tottenham is that he's not really been given the service and the ball and the freedom to be able to do what I know that he can do, what a lot of us know he can do, because he's a very good player. And do you know what? I'll use Florian Wirtz as an example, actually, because obviously he gets his first Premier League assist of the season against us today, which I think we all knew he was either doing that or scoring. But Florian Wirtz, when you actually you watch him game in, game out, he's growing in confidence. He's growing in terms of the quality and the influence he has on games. And I feel like we've seen a very similar pattern with Xavi. I think one of the big issues we've had is, as I've already mentioned, Kolo Muani cannot seem to put the ball in the back of the net at the moment, and we don't see enough from our wingers on either side. Kudos, I've said from the start of the season, as much as I love him, he does not score enough goals. And on the left-hand side as well, I feel like we very rarely ever score from that left-hand side, whether it's Richarlison or Kolo Muani out there, whether it's Odebert, whether whoever it is. The only person that seems to come on in that position and score is Matisse Tell, and he can't seem to get a sniff. And somebody, I can't remember who I saw tweeting it, but somebody needs to get a free Matisse Tell t-shirt like Kobe Mainoo's brother the other day and get it inside the stadium, because, you know, I feel like he's being harshly treated at the moment. But we need to find a solution to this creative issue we're now going to have, because we're now back at the stage where we were at the start of the season, where we were all complaining about having no creativity in this squad. And we still don't have Kulusevski back. We still don't have Maddison back. Who's going to step up in that number 10? Sar's gone to AFCON. He played a couple of times in that number 10 role, so he's not available either. The likelihood is he'll either switch the formation and maybe play with two number 10s. Maybe perhaps he'll go with something a bit different and play Kudos and Bergvall in there, or it will just be someone like Bergvall getting that role, which I'm a little bit hesitant about, because I don't think he's quite at that level or has that vision, I want to say, to really pull the strings of a game in an attacking space. So it's a huge blow, but to be honest with you, Ricky, I just think a 3-game ban for the challenge that Xavi made is absolutely ridiculous. The rules really annoy me on that, because I just genuinely don't think it's intentional. I just think he's pressing, and he's pressing aggressively, and his stride's just gone too far, and he's caught him down. Like I said, he can't complain, the red card, whatever. But I just, it's really frustrating, and we are going to miss him for the next few games. But that's on Thomas Frank. You want to be the manager of Tottenham. You want to be in this big job, or whatever we want to call it these days. You want to get paid this sort of money. Find the solution and find a way to make us pick up points without him. Yeah,
and I think the key also is, just for balance, how many times do we say to Ange Postecoglou, adapt, tweak? Thomas Frank, adapt, tweak, find a solution. Yes, the squad, let's be honest about it, as I keep on saying, is nowhere near the level of what it should be at a club like Tottenham. But at the same time, he's given the job, Mitch, as you've said, on the proviso that he can tweak, he can adapt, he can, find solutions. He's going to have to find some big solutions in the next few weeks. Otherwise, that noise, that pressure is going to ramp up. So that we get to half-time. Actually, I think at that point, the only time the fans were booing at half-time was more towards the referee rather than the players. It's been one of the very few times that the booing's actually been directed towards somebody else other than the players. But make of it what you will. I mean, Arne Slot wasted no time whatsoever. He makes the change at half-time. He brings on £130 million worth of the forward in Alexander Isak, who Mickey van der Ven described, and I think shout out to George Sessions, who I think also said this, earlier in the week, that he described him as his toughest opponent on Tottenham Way. You then had Szoboszlai dropping into right back, but then it wasn't too long that Isak fired the visitors ahead, and it all comes from, Luke, to whisk back round to you. Romero's left-footed pass that hits the back of a Liverpool player. Wirtz brilliantly tees up Isak, who drives the ball home. I don't want to spend too long on the goals. I know we've already chastised a lot of these players, but again, it's individual errors, right, that are costing the team dearly right now. And Romero, like we said, he's had a bad day at the office. He's given one away. He's been sent off. Poor goal overall to concede, Luke.
Yeah, especially from your captain. As I said earlier, you know that you're down to 10 men. You know you just not see the game out. It's too early to do that, but you just want to keep some composure, not try and do anything silly and make any silly mistakes. And it's not only the fact that he's tried that pass. I mean, if you actually look at the clip, it's Moani he's trying to play in. He is open, but there's clearly a player right in front of him, and he's also played it with his weaker foot. So it's strange on so many different levels to try and attempt to make that, especially when Mickey van der Ven is literally standing next to him in acres of space and is the perfect player to kind of give it to. So apparently as well, Wirtz just runs off of, you can see him in that clip there. Wirtz just runs off of Kudos. He doesn't even track him, doesn't look to be anywhere near him, and just not switched on. So there's errors that have happened, but it's happened all over the pitch by different players. Romero makes the pass, then he goes and he presses when actually he should just drop off and get into position. Kudos doesn't follow his man, and then it's a decent finish. But again, listening to the commentary, they were saying it was an unbelievable, it was a brilliant finish, it was fantastic, and I was like, Isak was scoring these goals week in, week out. It was a good finish, done well. That was it. But the way they was talking about it was like he'd put it in from 40 yards. It was crazy. So, but he looks like he's done his ACL in that tackle. But yeah, just so many little things that again. Players just, if you allow a player to run, they're the one that ends up getting the assist for the goal and that sort of thing. And we was a bit all over the place, but I think that's just because the whole team was shocked that we just give the ball away so easy. And then obviously it was a decent finish from Isac as well.
Yeah, I mean, Frank reacts immediately and brings on Brennan Johnson. He's something for Mohamed Kudus. The crowd give Brennan Johnson a massive, massive cheer. And that is Brennan Johnson at the moment. That is being linked heavily with a move away from Tottenham ahead of the upcoming January transfer window. It's understood to believe Crystal Palace are very, very interested in securing Brennan Johnson. Make of that what you will. Tottenham's top goal scorer last season. Mohamed Kudus coming off the pitch. And Marlon, I want to come to you. You've mentioned Kudus a few times during this show. Didn't really get going. Let's be honest about it. You know, he was Spurs' main outlet after the red card. But, you know, if we're honest about it, didn't really provide much. And I've got to say this with Kudos, you know, I had real high hopes for him coming in as being the big, as Mitch said at the start of the show, £60 million signing, wasn't he, from West Ham? He had a very good first season there. Can't get away from it. His stats last season weren't great at all. In a better, more confident team, Marlon, is Kudos performing? Or is it just a sad indictment of where we are right now, that given the mentality, the mood around the camp, he's also been infected by being at Tottenham? What do you think, Marlon?
You can clearly see that, because I think him and Paulinho are starting to come into the Tottenham way as the weeks go on.
And just to be clear, not a good Tottenham way. Just to be
not
very
a good
clear,
Tottenham way.
Not the good Tottenham way.
I think for me today, it was the one where I can't remember who he was with, but he ends up just passing it backwards. And I think it was Porro that had made the run and someone else, and they made good runs, and he just played it back to Romero, and you're like, what are you doing? He was walking. When a player is starting to walk, you can clearly see that Frank was like, nah, with 10 men, you can't walk when we've got 10 men. And I suppose, and this is the only time I'm ever going to give this club credit, but maybe we're starting to see what the West Ham fans were clearly saying about him, and we're starting to see it now slowly creep in as the weeks go on. Is
it attitude? Is it effort? Is it a combination of everything?
It's a bit of it. Well, he's not the only one. This is the problem. He's not the only one. But at this present moment, Kudos. If that's when West Ham fans said this is what you're going to get from him, and then he's starting to be infected by the club now. This is what you're going to get from him. And so for me, it's a case of we've used him too much. You're right. He was our only outlet.
And therefore he's been doubled up, tripled up.
And he's been doubled up, tripled up. And the first thing he thinks of, so he does, I think someone pointed this out, he does the hard things well, but he does the easy things not so great. It's always that case where the bit that frustrates me the most is when he gets on that right-hand side and he cuts back and you cross it. Just cross, just put it in that box, and he's there's and waits and waits and waits. Now, some people tell me it's because he doesn't have the clientele in the box to do it. But my thing is just put it in the box to see what happens. This is what happens. This is what you got to do. So for me, Kudos is not like Kudos today was a really bad game, but I'm not going to sit there and say I need to take him out of the team. He's part of the problem. He's part of the issue.
The problem you've got to take him out of the team. Anyone you're bringing in, with all due respect, is inferior.
It was just one of what we've been seeing from Kudos over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
You can starly see that either he's playing too much and he needs a rest.
There's an argument on that, yep.
Or the fact is that what he's being asked to do, he doesn't like what he's being asked to do by Frank at the moment. So it's a catch-22 with him at the moment.
It is. Mitch, I want to come over to you. I just want to quickly ask you about Brennan Johnson, because, I mean, it's just interesting to react to the fans there in the stadium. They've given Brennan Johnson an absolutely massive cheer. And look, I mean, many will know I'm not Brennan Johnson's biggest fan, right? But I can also acknowledge the fact that guy scored 18 goals for us last season, scored the goal to win us the Europa League trophy. And one of Frank's remits was coming in to improve players. And I'm going to be honest with you about it. This game is not on Frank. I'm seeing very little improvement right now. And what I was hoping is someone like Brennan Johnson, who you can't tell me these players aren't, some of them, uncoachable. Brennan Johnson's a young player, scored 18 goals last season. Are you surprised, Mitch, by his lack of genuine first team minutes on a frequent basis? Because he did bring a bit more, I'd say a bit more energy to Spurs' break. He was involved in the goal where he sent Richarlison away for a chance soon after. Are you amazed, Mitch, that we're not getting more out of these players? And do you back Brennan Johnson being sold by this club in the January transfer window in a side that's creating very little and is scoring very little goals right now?
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not getting as many minutes, to be honest. I mean, look, I think we should sell him, and it goes back to my point.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
It goes back to my point I made earlier about mediocrity at the club, and if we really want to push on, we have to make the decisions. Brennan Johnson, he's still young, he's still got a bit of value at him. I wouldn't want to see him sit at the club and his value diminish and decrease until we have to lose him on a free or sell him at a cut price because he's not been playing or he's not been performing or whatever it is. He actually started this season quite well, I thought. And we've always known Brennan Johnson's best quality for Spurs since he joined is just scoring goals. Whether he plays poorly outside of that, which I think he quite often does, he knows where the back of the net is and he knows how to get into the right positions. And I'm very, very surprised that he's not had more time on either wing, to be honest with you, because I agree with what Marlon was saying earlier. I think Kudos has been overused. I think we rely far too heavily on him. And I actually quite welcomed that change for Brennan Johnson for Kudos today, because I thought Kudos was really, really poor. But I'm also well aware that I don't think he is a player that takes us to another level. Could we utilize him a bit more, perhaps, especially with the current struggles? But I feel like Thomas Frank's very clearly seeing something in training that he's not particularly happy with Brennan Johnson to not change it, especially with the inconsistency that we've seen from Spurs overall. I think there's maybe a bit more to the story than we're aware of at this point in time. But I back the club selling him. Obviously, I back the club selling him as long as we go out and actually sign a decent winger to come in and wake of him, right? Someone that is better than him. And I want to make this clear as well, that is proven to be better than him. Not another player that could.
Not one for the future.
Not one that could be, that's shown potential or had half a good season or something. A good player that we know is going to come in and perform. So, yeah. Look, like I say, I feel like we need to adopt this sort of attitude with a lot of players in our squad. If there's buyers out there and there's a bit of value to that player, you know, why not? This club, we need a bit of change in this squad. You know, I see it flying through the comments, lists of players that I read those lists and I think there are a lot of players that we should really be looking at replacing. If we want to move up that table,
of course.
If we want to get out the bottom half of the table, which I can't believe I'm saying, that's where we need to be aiming.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very fair points there. Luke, I'm going to bring you back in. So, look, we've already touched upon this substitution that Frank makes. He brings on Polina and Odebear for Bergvall and Grace. We've now brought on Polina, as I mentioned, 2-0 down in 2 consecutive games. I know Marlon wasn't happy. Marlon wasn't happy. Again, baffling for some out there. Richie's introduced for Cullen Mawani. And Richarlison is scoring goals. I mean, Richarlison, again, has scored. He's now scored 18 goals in his last 25 league starts for Tottenham. Yes, he wasn't starting this game, but he is scoring goals at quite a frequent rate. Luke, where are we? Because, we all keep saying that we need to upgrade on Richarlison, but yet Richarlison is currently still fit at the moment. He is still scoring goals. And yet there's a feeling out there that we do need more. Where are you on this, Luke? It's a bit of a baffling one because I do agree that I think forward-wise we could do with improvements, but the club's got Colin Moani, it's got Dominic Solanke, it's got Richarlison. If Solanke comes back before January, which again, with Tottenham, who knows when he's going to come back, Moani, Kulusevski, again, I think that's going to take time. Is Richarlison more of your backup forward and we still need another forward? Where are we on this Richarlison debate, Luke? Because he's scoring goals at the moment for Tottenham, whether we like it or we don't like it.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's that it goes back to that input-output scenario. Like, I would argue Brennan Johnson's the best finisher at the club, but he doesn't seem to offer you much in the build-up. And at the moment, Richarlison is able to finish, but doesn't offer much in the build-up. And then you've got Moani, who actually looks quite good in the build-up, but can't score a goal. And same thing, Kudos doesn't score very often, although he's got decent numbers for the assists. Odebert, Tell, all of them, they don't seem to have the numbers to back it up. So it's a real strange one. Where do you kind of go with it? Because you can certainly have games with both Johnson and Richarlison where they don't score and they're completely ineffective the whole game. But then also they're the only ones that really bring a constant attacking threat where you think they will score a goal. Because as I say, for me, Johnson is the best finisher at the club. And that is probably an indictment on the club, really, to be honest with you. Because with Frank, I think it comes down to that whole creating chances. So if you're going to go off of what we've seen, we're not going to create many chances. If we do, they should be ones that we should score, because that's kind of how he focuses on. He spoke about it before, about he wants chances to be high XG. So if that's the case, then and you want to be ruthless, you want your best finishers to play in the games. But the players that are the best finishers don't provide enough in game. So this is the constant problem. I completely agree with Mitch. I think we've got a lot of decent squad options. We don't have enough first teamers, and I think that's the problem. Is that there's loads of players in our squad where we should be looking to accept bids on, and these players, instead of being part of the 11, they'll be part of a squad. But there'll be better players brought in, and there's so many in this squad that we could do that with at this moment in time. I don't agree that we need to get rid of like 15 players or anything like that. I think there are a good group of players that can be part of a decent squad, but we need to sprinkle some stardust and some absolute top quality players on this squad, in my eyes.
I tell you what, Luke, I love you on this show. We've loved having you on. I'll be honest with you, when I watch it sometimes, I think we should flog the lot. I look at us and think, how many of these players generally, when I look back at that Pochettino team, and I know you boys loved, I know Mitch, again, I think we first were doing shows actually when it was the Pochettino era. There's just not one Spurs player that gets anywhere near that first 11. I remember back in the days that we were moaning about, having the likes of Kudos on the fringes and NG on the fringes. Look, I'm not suggesting those players are good enough, and I'm not characterising or selecting there. There's been a lot of players that haven't worked out for whatever reason. Saldana been one of them during his time at Tottenham before Pochettino. But a look at our squad, it just, for a club that, the board have said we want to win more often, there's so much work that needs to be done here. It's absolutely frightening. Want to close, boys, very quickly on Romero, because again, look, he took it to the extreme, didn't he, really? I don't know what's going through his mind and why he needed or feel the need to react. And it was weird because he was playing on the edge. And for those that were watching the game back home on TV, I feel like Gary Neville was kind of leading us to this moment with Romero, because he was kept on suggesting he was playing on the edge. And the replay showed Romero did aim a kick out at Konate's arm. Mitch, I'll start with you if you don't mind on this. Look, is it the worst defence in the world? No, but it's absolute madness, Mitch, when you consider he's on a yellow card. We've got the momentum in the game. We've just scored. Liverpool under pressure. And I think rightly, one of our viewers and listeners say here, forgive me, MJB THFC 1991 makes a great point. Leeds drew 3 for Liverpool, and they looked so vulnerable. We gave them so many Christmas presents during the game, and that was another one, because they were really, you'd say at that moment, maybe fearing Tottenham were going to do another Leeds to them, where they were going to come back in the game late on. But that Romero moment of madness absolutely killed any momentum, any chance of getting an equaliser where we would have come away from the game feeling we've got something maybe to build on. But I don't know. What do you make of it, Mitch? The whole incident itself, quickly.
I'm one of Romero's biggest fans and defenders, right? And it really, really irks me when I read the stuff on social media that slams him. And I hated it today because literally full-time whistle blows and they go back to the studio. And the first thing I hear from Jamie Redknapp is Cristian Romero's doing what Cristian Romero does. And I hate the narrative that the media have built around him because, yes, he plays on the edge. Yes, he is an aggressive, traditional football player in that sense. But I refuse to let the bad outweigh the good for Cristian Romero. And every time he is not in the team and not playing for Tottenham, we are worse. And we are a worse team without him. What I will say, because I will be fair on this, he is our club captain now and he should know better. And he's been in that situation, exact same situation before. And it's really silly. And he's let his teammates down. He's let the club down, all of that sort of stuff. I get it. I get it from like a football perspective. He's so angry. He's thinking Liverpool's second goal's been unjustly given, which it was because it was a foul, pushed in the back with two hands, whatever, a completely different conversation there. And you know, he's probably a bit annoyed at the referee for all of his little decisions throughout the course of the 90 minutes, which 100 again, yes, it cost us today, but I almost like to see, and I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here, I like to see that he's fighting for it and he cares so much about it and he wants to win and he wants to make the difference for the team. He just needs to learn to find that balance and that line between doing the most that he can in the way that he plays and then going over the edge. You could see it coming. And Gary Neville was probably right in that context. Romero was playing on the edge all game. He was charging about the pitch. He was flying into people. And 9 times out of 10, he usually wins the ball as well. And he's one of those types of players. But it did cost us right at the end of the game. There was still 5 minutes left. Just won us a free kick as well. And I get he's probably done it because he's thought the referee's either just not going to give it because it's minimal and maybe he doesn't think he's
stupid now, Mitch, with all the cameras now in football.
Yeah.
It's the worst place, isn't it?
But it was so minimal, Ricky, that I don't think it would have been picked up by VAR for a straight red card if the referee hadn't have seen him and booked him again, which is what I'm saying. And you know, the argument that it's not a red card is completely irrelevant, right? It happened, he did what he did, and he's opened himself up to that. By doing what he's doing, which is kicking out at Konate. He just needs to control himself a little bit. But I'm not going to go any further than that because I love the bloke and I will defend him until the day that he leaves this club. Unfortunately, it cost us today. It's the only excuse I'll make for the team today. It's the only one. And shoot me if you want, but that's my opinion on it.
No, that's fair, Mitch. I think my biggest frustration is though, you know, we do this a lot, whether it's this club or other clubs and fans for to say about their players. We just give referees such an easy decision at times to make. You know, many that maybe feel Tottenham a target as a football club. These are the things that I think, you know, again, against teams like Liverpool, it's very hard, I think, sometimes. And again, I think Tottenham are a big club. We're not an elite club. But when you go up against the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, those clubs, I think it's sometimes hard to get those decisions. But don't make it even more harder for ourselves. And that's my biggest frustration, that we give referees an out by doing things that are in our controllables. I'll never be angry, right, if we're doing things and things happen that are out of our control. My biggest frustration is you can only control what you can control. And my frustration with this game is that we've allowed things to get away from us when we had control over situations and we let ourselves down. It means at the moment for Tottenham, as things stands, going into the Christmas period, Tottenham are 13th in the Premier League table. We are, as things stand, and it's a moving table, forgive us, because again, we're recording on a giant-packed weekend of Premier League football. We are, as things stands at the moment, we are 6 points off, 7 points off the top 4 or 5 at the moment. And in terms of, looking below us, I don't like looking below us, but right now, Leeds have risen to 20 points, which means Tottenham are, as things stands at the moment, just 2 points above where we finished last season in 17th, which shows you how much work there's to do at this football club. And like we mentioned, Matty Wells looks like he's departing the club. He's off to the MLS. And Fabio Paratici looks like he's closing in on a return to Italy with Fiorentina. So a lot going on at Tottenham right now, where there's going to need to be a huge amount of work to be done to give fans confidence that this club is heading in the right direction. I don't want to say we're in a relegation battle, but we are showing degrees of relegation form. Our home from alone is relegation form, right? And again, that's not come under just one manager. That's come under the space of two. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Mitch. Mitch Fretton, thank you so much. Mitch, available on YouTube and TikTok. You can find him on the collab link for this show. Mitch, thank you so much. A pleasure to have you on here. We'll try and not make it too long for Mitch again. He's been a star. Marlon, thank you so much. Marlon over at the Spurs Kings, thank you so much again for coming back on the show. And Luke over at Spotlight on Spurs. I want to wish these gentlemen a very Merry Christmas. Have a lovely festive period. To our viewers and listeners that may not listen and watch every show, that may dip in and out, we want to wish you out there a very Merry Christmas, probably away from football right now. And again, I will reiterate what the club have been pushing in the last week or so. We know for some people out there, it's a difficult time of year, maybe not having family around, a period where, again, people are on their own. We want to, send our best wishes to everybody out there. I know for a lot of people out there, that last one on Spurs, Tottenham in general, is meant to be an escapism. And right now, I've said this for the second year in a row, that this is probably not the escapism right now you want. So we send our love to you out there. Thank you always for your incredible support for the show. We truly appreciate it, and we'll try and keep turning up, providing you with some form, whether you want to call it therapy or reality or just quite simply where we are. But from us all, thank you so much for your support. From Marlon, from Luke, from Mitch, from me, we have been the last one on Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you.